Welcome to the Thick and Mystic Moment, the show that's all about uncovering the secrets of personal transformation and celebrating the incredible stories of those who've dared to change their lives. I'm your guide, Robert John Hadfield, and together we'll explore the power of change. Let's get started. I'm going to start off today reading you a short story that I think you're going to love. If you've never heard this before, you've heard variations of it. It's really funny. And what I have here, it's an adaptation of a story called Two Deer by Leo Tolstoy. And this is just basically a slightly shortened version of the short story, which was already short, but they made it a little bit shorter, adapted it for a newspaper. And this version of it was published in 1947. And it's called The Prisoner by Leo Tolstoy. Like I said, it was adapted from another story called Two Deer, which was actually adapted from another story written by a French guy. I don't know his name. But anyway, I'm going to read this to you. I think you'll get a huge kick out of this. All right, near the borders of France and Italy, on the shore of the Mediterranean Sea, lies a tiny kingdom. It has a real kinglet, and he has a palace, courtiers, ministers, a bishop, generals, and an army of 60 men. Once, a murder was committed in this toy king's domain. The judges assembled with much ceremony and condemned the criminal to have his head cut off, as the law directs. There was only one hitch in the matter, and that was that they had neither a guillotine for cutting heads off, nor an executioner. The ministers decided to address an inquiry to the French government, asking for help. A week later, a reply came. A machine and an expert could be supplied, and the cost would be 16,000 francs. This was laid before the king. "The wretch is not worth the money," said he. "Can't it be done cheaper?" So it was decided to send a similar inquiry to the King of Italy. He replied that they could supply both a machine and an expert, and the whole cost would be 12,000 francs. This still seemed too much. Another council was called. Could not one of the soldiers perhaps be got to do it? In war, they don't mind killing people. So the general talked it over with the soldiers, but none of them would do it. The ministers assembled a commission, a committee, and a subcommittee, and at last they decided that the best thing would be to alter the death sentence to imprisonment for life. They managed to find a place that would do for a prison. They put the young fellow there and placed a guard over him. The guard had to watch the criminal and had also to fetch his food from the palace kitchen. The prisoner remained there a year. But the king, looking over his expenditures one day, noticed a new item. This was for the upkeep of the criminal. Nor was it a small item either. The worst of it was that the fellow was still young and healthy and might live for 50 years. The ministers met and considered and reconsidered till one of them said, "Gentlemen, we must dismiss the guard." "But then," rejoined another minister, "the fellow will run away." Said the first speaker, "let him run away and be hanged to him." The king agreed. The guard was dismissed, and they waited to see what would happen. All that happened was that at dinner time, the criminal came out and, not finding his guard, went to the king's kitchen to fetch his own dinner. What was to be done? "We shall have to tell him straight out," said they, "that we do not want to keep him." So the minister of justice had him brought before him. "Why do you not run away?" said the minister. "You can go where you like." "Well, I dare say the king would not mind," replied the man, "but I have nowhere to go. You have ruined my character here. It is not fair. In the first place, when once you sentenced me to death, you ought to have executed me, but you did not. Then you sentenced me to imprisonment for life and put a guard to bring my food, but you took him away and I had to fetch my own food. I did not complain, but now you actually want me to go away. I can't agree to that. You may do as you like, but I won't go. Once more, the council was summoned. The only way to get rid of the man was to offer him a pension. The sum fixed was 600 francs, and this was announced to the prisoner. Well, said he, I don't mind so long as you pay it regularly. So the matter was settled. He received 1/3 of his annuity in advance and left the king's dominions. It was only a quarter of an hour by rail. He settled just across the frontier, where he bought a bit of land and started market gardening. He always goes at the proper time to draw his pension. It's a good thing he did not commit his crime in a country where they do not grudge expenses. Anyway, it's the story is so funny and it's so great, and there's so many different things that you could sit and talk about: the value of life, the value of money, the ridiculousness of bureaucracies and people in positions of power and decision making. I mean, all that stuff is true, and we could spend a whole bunch of time talking about that. But I wanted to take this a kind of a different direction for a moment. This, again, was a story written by Leo Tolstoy. Leo Tolstoy is considered by many perhaps the greatest novelist of all time. And, of course, he wrote Anna Karenina, excuse me, and War and Peace. And think about those two novels. Anna Karenina, people think, there's many people that think that is the greatest novel ever written. It is somewhere north of 850 pages, that book is. War and Peace is somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,500 pages. Now, what